think working the night shift is just boring? Try walking empty hallways where every shadow feels alive. Try watching security footage that shows people in places no one should be. Try getting a phone call from someone describing your exact outfit when you're supposed to be alone. These aren't just stories, they really happened. And once you hear them, you'll never feel safe working nights again. My name is Jalen. For a while, I worked as a night security guard at Wellspring Memorial Hospital, an old, half-abandoned building on the outskirts of San Dimas. The hospital was mostly closed down, but they were renovating the psychiatric wing on the upper floors. My job was simple. Keep an eye on the place overnight, do a couple of patrols, and monitor the security cameras from the basement. It wasn't exactly thrilling work, but it paid well enough, and I could handle the quiet. At first, the nights passed without incident. The hum of the fluorescent lights and the occasional creak of the old building were the only sounds I heard. Then came the third night. That was when everything started to feel off. I was sitting in the security room, eating cold noodles, eyes glued to the bank of monitors showing different parts of the hospital. Most were black or filled with static, but camera 7 caught my attention. It showed the hallway of the psych wing, a long, narrow corridor sealed off years ago. That hallway was supposed to be empty, but that night, something moved across the frame. Just a flicker. Something too fast and shadowy to be a person, but too solid to be just a glitch or dust. I rewound and replayed the footage multiple times, but each time the figure vanished before I could catch it clearly. The silence in the room thickened. My heartbeat slowed as if my body knew there was something wrong, something I wasn't seeing yet. I convinced myself it was nothing. Maybe a spider crawling on the camera lens, or a trick of the light. But when I went to check the psych wing hallway, the door was unlocked. That door should have been padlocked. I pushed it open slowly. The lights flickered on, revealing layers of dust covering old wheelchairs, stretchers, and filing cabinets. Then I saw the footprints. One set of bare footprints, clearly visible in the dust. They led from the door, down the hall toward the nurse's station, and stopped abruptly. It was like whoever had made them vanished into thin air. That should have been enough to make me quit. But I didn't. I went back to the security room and tried to ignore what I'd seen. The rest of the night passed in a blur of static, occasional flickers on the monitors, and that unsettling feeling in the pit of my stomach. After that night, sleep was impossible. Every shadow in my apartment seemed to stretch and twitch. Every noise, a creak, a cough, a distant hum, made my heart jump. I kept telling myself it was just stress, just nerves. But deep down, I knew the hospital wasn't done with me yet. Back at work, I started noticing more glitches on the monitors, static that buzzed with something almost alive. A faint whispering, like voices barely caught on the audio feed. At first, I thought I was imagining it. But then, one night, the audio on camera 7 crackled to life. Faint footsteps, soft murmurs, even a distant scream that sent chills down my spine. I called the security office to ask if they'd heard anything unusual. The voice on the other end was dismissive. "Old building noises," they said. "Ignore it." But I couldn't. One night, I was watching the psych wing monitor when the screen suddenly went black. My heart slammed in my chest. Then the feed flickered back. But something was wrong. The hallway looked different. The lighting was dimmer, the shadows longer. And then I saw her. A woman standing motionless at the far end of the hallway. She was pale, with long dark hair hanging over her face. Her clothes were old-fashioned, like she'd stepped out of another time. I blinked. She vanished. I rewound the footage. No sign of her. I was losing it. But then the next morning, the janitor told me something chilling. He said some nurses had talked about a patient who died mysteriously in the psych wing years ago. A young woman named Evelyn. They said she never left the hospital, even after she died. That night, I stayed on high alert, but the terror was just beginning. That night, the whispers became louder. I swear I heard my name being called, soft, desperate, barely a breath, but unmistakable. I tried to shake it off, told myself it was just the isolation getting to me. But the cameras had other plans. Around 3 a.m., camera 7 flickered on its own. The woman was back, closer this time, standing just at the edge of the frame, staring straight into the camera with empty eyes that seemed to pierce through the screen. I froze. Suddenly the feed cut out. Total darkness. My fingers trembled as I reached to reboot the system. When the monitors flickered back on, the hallway was gone. Instead, there was a dark room filled with peeling wallpaper and a rocking chair that moved slowly back and forth by itself. I shut off the system and leaned back in my chair, heart pounding in my ears. I should have quit that night, but I was trapped. Trapped by fear, curiosity, and something I couldn't explain. The next day, I found old records in the hospital archives. They told of Evelyn's tragic story, a patient who suffered horrific abuse, whose death was ruled an accident, but whispered rumors said otherwise. And then I found the name of the doctor who treated her, Dr. Alistair Crane. One thing was clear, Evelyn never really left that hospital. On my next shift, I set up a portable recorder next to the monitor. At 2:47 a.m., I caught it. A voice, clear as day, whispering my name. But it wasn't Evelyn. It was something else, something darker. And I was no longer just a security guard. I was a witness. The nights became unbearable. Every shift, the voices grew louder, more desperate. They clawed at my sanity, whispering secrets I didn't want to hear. One night, I saw something I'll never forget. Through the monitor, the hallway twisted and warped, like reality itself was breaking down. The walls bled shadows, and that woman, Evelyn, stepped out from the darkness. Her eyes were hollow, her face a mask of sorrow and rage. She walked slowly toward the camera, her voice echoing through the speakers. "Help me." I slammed my fist on the console, trying to shut it down, but the screen only flickered harder, trapping me in that nightmare. The security office suddenly felt suffocating. The air grew cold, thick with a presence I couldn't see but could feel pressing in on me. I tried to stand, but my legs wouldn't move. Then, through the speakers, a chilling laughter filled the room, dry, mocking, and utterly inhuman. I realized then I wasn't alone. I quit the next day, but the hospital never left me. I kept hearing those whispers in my dreams, seeing those empty eyes staring back at me whenever I closed my own. I don't know what I saw in that hospital, ghosts or something worse. All I know is this: some places don't just hold memories, they hold grudges, and some things never want to be forgotten. 2 weeks after I quit, I got a call. It was from the new night guard who'd taken over my shifts. He sounded shaken, like he hadn't slept in days. He asked me if I'd ever seen her. My blood ran cold. I didn't answer. I just hung up the phone and stared at the wall, but the calls didn't stop. Every few nights, a different number would ring, silent on the other end, until one night, I picked up and heard that same voice whisper, "Come back." I told myself I wouldn't. I swore I wouldn't, but something pulled me back. It wasn't guilt, it wasn't curiosity, it was her, and the need to know what really happened. So I returned, just once, just to look. The hospital was dim, eerily quiet. The halls were exactly as I remembered, but something had changed. The lights buzzed with static. The air felt thick. I walked past the psych wing. The door at the end, the one I always saw on camera 7, was open. Inside was that same rocking chair from the distorted feed, and sitting in it was Evelyn. Her face slowly turned toward me, revealing a wide, unnatural smile. Her lips didn't move, but I heard her voice inside my head. "Now you see." I blacked out, woke up outside in my car, engine running, clock blinking, 3:33 a.m. I never told anyone what happened. I never went back. But I still see her, in dreams, in reflections. Sometimes in the corners of surveillance footage when I walk past public buildings. If you ever work the night shift, and the monitor flickers, don't look too closely. Some things are watching back. I've worked the graveyard shift for the last 3 years. Janitor for an office complex just off the I-94 corridor in Michigan. It's not the kind of job people dream about, but it pays enough and no one bothers you. Nights are quiet. Most of the time I just put in my earbuds and clean the same 10 floors on autopilot. But there's something about floor 3B that always sits wrong with me. Not scary exactly, just off. The lighting on that floor is always a little dimmer. Smells different too, not like trash or chemicals, just stale. Like the air doesn't move right. The weird part is the break room. That's the only spot that ever made me stop. Nothing huge, just little things I started noticing. Like the microwave always being warm. Not hot, just warm, like it had been used a minute before I got there. Coffee pot still half full, even though no one's been scheduled to work late an hour on that floor in weeks. Same exact coffee mug sitting by the corner of the table. Not dirty, just placed there every single night. At first, I figured maybe someone was crashing after hours. A temp or intern with no swipe card access. Happens sometimes. But it kept happening. Same mug, same amount of coffee left, same flicker in the fluorescent light near the sink. Even the chair pulled out a little from the table, like someone had been sitting there and just stepped out. So I left a note. Just a post-it on the fridge. "Forgot your coffee." No one replied. But the next night the mug was in the same exact spot. And my note? Gone. A week passed. Same pattern. Every time I got to 3B around 2:10 in the morning, that break room looked like someone had just used it. I stopped cleaning it right away. Instead, I stood in the hallway, just out of view, and waited. I gave it 5 minutes, then 10. Nothing. I stepped in. The microwave was warm again. The coffee pot steaming. Mug. Same place. That night, I checked the building's security logs. We keep a backup book in the janitor's closet on the ground floor. Handwritten entries, badge access, stairs and elevator use. No one had entered or exited the 3B floor for the last 5 nights. Except me. That's when I started wondering if I was the problem. Maybe I wasn't remembering right. Maybe I was the one leaving the mug there, forgetting I'd cleaned it already. Maybe I was losing track of time. Night shifts mess with your head. No windows, no real time markers, just a routine that loops forever. I decided to test myself. I brought a cheap disposable camera and snapped a photo of the break room after I cleaned it. I left the mug exactly where it was, didn't touch the coffee or the microwave. Wrote the time down, 2:12 a.m. Next night, I showed up same time. Mug was still there. Exact same angle. Coffee pot full again. I took a new photo, then compared them side by side the next morning. Identical, not just similar. Same crumbs on the counter. Same wrinkle in the napkin under the mug. Same shadow across the wall. It looked frozen. I started dreading 3B. My hands would sweat as I got close. I'd make excuses to clean it later. I even skipped it once. But the next night, even though I hadn't stepped inside, everything was still the same. And my camera? The film jammed. That's when I started hearing the hum. Not from the lights, not from any machine I could find. Just this low mechanical vibration. Subtle, like something spinning behind the walls. And it only ever happened in that room. The hum kept getting louder, not in volume, in presence. Like it wasn't just a sound anymore, but something alive, something aware. I stopped wearing earbuds. I had to listen. Every night I passed that room, I half expected to hear someone whisper my name. Then came Thursday night. I walked in expecting the usual warm microwave, fresh coffee, mug unmoved. But this time, there was something else. Sitting right in the middle of the break room table, a small black cassette recorder. I didn't put it there. I hadn't seen one of those since high school. It looked ancient, dusty, buttons worn smooth. But the cassette inside it? Clean, brand new. Labeled only with one thing, handwritten in faded red marker. Play me. I shouldn't have, but I did. I pressed play and heard my own voice. If you're hearing this, you waited too long. You weren't supposed to come back. I froze. It wasn't just someone mimicking me. It was my voice, down to the stutter I get when I'm nervous. And it sounded tired, worn down, terrified. You've seen the patterns. You know what's happening. They loop it every night. They're watching from inside the walls. You think it's a room, but it's not. You don't belong here anymore. If you're smart, you'll stop coming back. Then the tape ended. I just stood there, chest tight, staring at the recorder. I checked my phone. 2:13 a.m. Same time. Same as always. I didn't finish my shift that night. I left the building around 3 a.m. without clocking out. Just walked out the front doors, heart hammering, hands shaking. I told my supervisor I was sick, took 2 nights off, slept during the day with the lights on, but something about it wouldn't let go. I kept dreaming of that break room, not nightmarish dreams, just wrong. Dreams where the walls were too wide, where the microwave never stopped humming, where I'd hear my voice looping from behind a cabinet door. You're not supposed to be here anymore. When I finally came back on shift, I told myself I wouldn't go near 3B. I cleaned the top floors, kept the stairwell locked. But around 2 a.m., I got the urge. Not curiosity, not bravery, something pulling me. And when I got there, the door to 3B was already open. Lights on, microwave running, and the mug shattered on the floor. There was a file folder on the table, one I hadn't seen before, labeled Janitor Access Log, Internal. Inside, a printed schedule, but not the current one. It was dated 2 years ago, and under night shift, for 5 straight months, was my name. Then it stopped. No replacement, no rehire, just a red stamped line across the bottom of the last page. Terminated, unaccounted for. I backed out of the room, down the hall, toward the elevator. It opened before I pressed the button, already waiting, already lit, as if it knew. The last thing I remember before the doors closed was the digital floor panel flickering. Not numbers, just static. And the hum? It followed me in. I don't remember getting home. I just woke up in my apartment, clothes from 2 nights ago still on, and a cassette recorder on my kitchen table. Different tape, same label. Play me. I haven't touched it. I won't. And I haven't gone back to that building since. But I still hear it sometimes. That low hum coming from the walls. The night was already off to a bad start. Erin was halfway through her third double shift that week, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., at Briar Hill Elder Care, a small, underfunded private facility tucked behind a gas station and a shut-down bingo hall just off the county road. The kind of place people only found when every other option was full. The kind of place that didn't make the news when something went wrong. Briar Hill was quiet at night. Too quiet. That night, just like the two before, she was alone on the second floor with only 2 patients. Mr. Landry, a WW2 vet with late-stage dementia, and Ms. Howell, an old librarian who no longer spoke, only stared out the window for hours on end. No other nurses. No security. Just her and the endless creaks of an old building that never seemed to sleep. Around 1:30 a.m., Erin made her rounds. Everything was fine until she reached room 209, Ms. Howell's room. The window was open. Now this window had been giving her problems all week. The latch didn't hold properly, and the storm that night was hammering the glass hard with wind and rain. Erin shook her head, closed the window tight, double-latched it, and even wedged a folded towel into the corner to keep it sealed. It was freezing outside, and Ms. Howell, bundled under layers, didn't even blink. But as Erin turned to leave, she noticed something odd. There were wet footprints, just a few, faint, almost like bare feet had walked across the linoleum floor, but too small and spread apart, like someone crouched. She looked back at Ms. Howell, who was still staring at the now closed window. "Did someone come in?" Erin asked gently, half joking, but the silence in that room was thick, oppressive. Then Ms. Howell did something she hadn't done in weeks. She raised her hand and pointed directly at the window. Ms. Howell's hand stayed frozen in the air, finger extended toward the rain-speckled window. Her eyes never blinked, never shifted. Erin hesitated. "Ms. Howell, did someone actually come in?" Silence. Erin took a breath, crossed the room, and peeked out the window. Nothing but the parking lot below, the back fence, and a crooked street lamp flickering in the wind. She shook off the chill crawling up her neck and made a mental note to report the faulty latch again. Not that anyone ever fixed anything in this place. She shut the door behind her and moved on to room 211. Mr. Landry was asleep, mouth open, breathing shallow and rhythmic. All good. But when she passed room 209 again 10 minutes later, the window was open. Erin froze. She knew she'd shut it, latched it, even wedged it. This time the towel was on the floor, soaking wet. And on the window pane, 5 long, thin fingerprints streaked down the glass. Goosebumps crawled up her spine. By 2:15 a.m., Erin sat behind the nurse's station trying to distract herself. The place had always been creepy, the kind of silence that hums in your ears, but tonight it felt wrong, like the walls themselves were holding their breath. Her break was interrupted by a faint noise, scritch, like something dragging. It came from the hallway. She stepped out and followed the sound toward room 209. Inside, Ms. Howell had moved, not just shifted in bed, but fully turned toward the door. And there, on her tray table, was a piece of paper, a child's drawing, done in crayon. Stick figures, long fingers, no faces, standing outside the window. "Where did this come from?" Erin asked, voice shaking. Ms. Howell didn't answer. Her eyes shifted slowly toward the far corner of the room, Where the window curtain had moved just a little, there was no wind. Around 3:30 a.m., Erin logged an incident in the outdated patient record system and picked up the desk phone to call her supervisor. No dial tone. She tapped the receiver, hung it up, tried again. The line buzzed, then a voice picked up. But it wasn't from the main office. It was a man's voice. Low, calm, and unfamiliar. "You were told not to look into room 209. Click. Erin's breath caught in her throat. She stared at the phone in her hand like it had just burned her. She scrambled for her cell phone, but had no signal. Not even one bar. She backed away from the desk, and that's when she noticed it. There were muddy footprints, bare feet, leading from room 209, all the way to where she was standing. Erin followed the muddy footprints with her eyes, not her feet. Every instinct screamed, "Don't move." But she forced herself forward, slow and deliberate, gripping her pen like it was a weapon. The footprints ended right at the desk, but didn't go back, like someone was still there. She turned around. No one. The light above her flickered, then she heard it again, from down the hall, the dragging sound. Closer this time, wet, heavy, a shuffle like bare feet on linoleum. Scrurch, thump, scrurch. Erin backed away toward the supply closet and slipped inside. She shut the door, quietly, and covered her mouth to muffle her breath. From the thin crack under the door, she could see it, something moving past. Long, pale limbs, dripping wet. Limbs that moved with too many joints. It passed, slowly, dragging a hand along the wall, leaving behind another trail of wet fingerprints. It stopped right outside the closet door. Erin didn't breathe. The lights flickered. The emergency backup power hummed like a dying wasp. Then, knock, knock, knock. 3 slow knocks on the supply closet door, followed by a whisper, "You shouldn't have stayed." She didn't remember running, just that she was suddenly back at the nurse's station, jamming the override button to unlock the front door. Nothing happened. The system was offline. Erin grabbed the maintenance keyring and rushed for the stairwell. If she could get to the bottom level, she could access the security room. Maybe even call out on the radio there. But when she reached the landing between floors, she heard whispering coming from below. Multiple voices. Some sounded like patients, others like herself. Distorted versions of her own voice saying things she didn't remember saying. "Why are you still here? Stop checking room 209. He sees you now." She turned and went back up the stairs, only to find the hallway different. The nameplates on the doors were gone. The exit sign now read, "Return." Then she noticed it. A shadow under the door of room 209. But it wasn't shaped like a person. It crawled. Sideways. Erin made a choice. She ran straight to the back exit of the east wing. The alarms didn't sound. The power was too far gone. She burst through the metal door into the rain, slipped in the mud, scrambled to her car. The glass on her rear window was fogged from the inside. Her hand shook as she started the ignition. That's when her phone buzzed for the first time all night. One new voicemail. She played it. It was a recording. Her own voice. "Don't look under the desk." Her stomach dropped. Erin turned slowly. Inside the facility, through the lobby window, there was someone sitting at the nurse's station desk, wearing her uniform, with her face, smiling, and watching her drive away. They never found another trace of Erin. No logs, no exit footage, just the voicemail she left on her own phone, the one she didn't remember recording. The care home was quietly shut down a month later. Officially, It was due to infrastructure issues, but the locals still whisper about that last night. About the janitor who quit mid-shift and refused to speak about why. About the lights that still flicker on in room 209, even though there's no power running to that wing anymore. And sometimes, when the storm rolls in just right, they say you can see someone sitting at the front desk, smiling, waiting. If you made it this far, you probably aren't sleeping tonight. Don't worry, you're not alone. Subscribe to Mr. Night Dread for more true horror stories that'll crawl under your skin and stay there. And if you've ever worked the night shift and seen something you can't explain, I'm listening. Drop your story in the comments below. Until next time, sleep light.